So welcome to those people that are watching us not live. And yeah, it's so lovely to see the great interest in this program. We're very blessed to be joined by Professor Ken Purnell, who's going to talk with us about the program that is offered by their university. And also have Penny Curnow. I'm sure many of you know Penny Curnow and Jeff McKeon from the team who are also here. Penny's actually started this program, so she's got some first-hand experience of this. Jeff is joining the program next year. And just to give you a little bit of context, I guess what's happened for many years since we've been offering firstly the Diploma of Neuroscience of Leadership and then the Advanced Diploma of Neuroscience of Leadership is people have really enjoyed the content. And, you know, we're all on this mission to change the world one brain at a time, and people have joined us on that mission, which is fantastic. And what happened when people got to the end of the program, that very last study call, is a lot of people go, oh, I'm really sad that this is over and it's gone so quickly and I've learned so much and I want to keep learning. And so we've been searching for quite some time for a program that we thought was of a caliber that we would feel confident to recommend people to that program. And also, I think we've got a few, oh, you're still admitting, Ken, you know, something that would provide a pathway for our students. So we were delighted, and it was actually through Penny in a conversation, I think, with one of our alumni or one of our students who alerted us to the program. And so Penny was so excited. She nearly, you know, when Penny gets excited, you know it, let me tell you. And she said, we've got to look at this program. And so we've been delighted that we've kind of made this connection now and provide this pathway that people were looking for from the Advanced Diploma. And one of the really exciting parts is that Ken also thought our program was of a caliber that they offer 2 subject credits for the if you've completed the Advanced Diploma. So that means you do 6 subjects instead of 8, but he'll take you through that in a little bit more detail. So thank you so much for joining us today. And if you have a question and you'd like to pop it in the chat pane, Penny's going to monitor that, and I'm sure there'll be some opportunities. I guess we would encourage the questions to be quite general in nature. If you have a specific question related to yourself, I'm sure that Ken is happy for you to reach out to him after this session. We'll provide contact details for him. So thank you. I'd love to hand over to Ken. He's going to talk a little bit about the program and hopefully answer some of those questions that you might have at this stage.
Thank you very much indeed, Linda, Penny and others. And the blessing's actually mine to be able to participate with you, with such like-minded folks who are interested in changing one brain at a time. What I thought we'd do just briefly for about 10 minutes is if I just go through some slides that I've got, and they'll give you an overview of the graduate certificate of 4 units, of which you get 2 units advanced standing. So you've only got to do 2, and you've got a postgraduate qualification, and then how that just progresses through to the masters. So without further ado, I'll see if I can actually share my screen. And there we go. Right. If that's not sharing, let me know. I think it's right. Basically, at our university, we became a university quite a few years ago, and we've been in existence, depending on how you calculate it, for over 100 years in one guise or another. So we're sort of not a newcomer, but we're also not like one of the sandstones. And I happen to be a graduate of New South and Sydney, 2 of the 8 sandstones. So it's with pleasure that these days we sort of have some cooperation at times, especially with Sydney and other ones around Australia, like the University of Queensland. So we developed this educational neuroscience course. Some other people, like at Harvard, prefer to call it mind-brain education, all sorts of words like that. I'm not going to fight over words, but I just say I call it educational neuroscience because you've got obviously medical neuroscience, of which that comprises close to 95% of the field, and educational neuroscience is the wee little bit of 5%. I used to say that as an intuitive sort of feeling until I actually got the data showing the number of papers produced, and it was 95 to 5. So I went, yes. So we were about 1/20th of the number of papers. We do, of course, hit a number of the medical ones as appropriate in neurobiology and that, and we provide you with some pretty rich experiences that Penny's got right now in remote learning. So a bit of fun. So we've got the 2 courses, the grad cert, 4 units, 4 subjects. The Master of Educational Neuroscience, as Linda said, is actually 8 units, the last one being a double. So it's technically 8 minus 1 because the double equals 7 actual units. So let's have a look at those. There's the quick overview of the whole lot, the Masters. The first 4, orientation to educational neuroscience and so on, comprise that grad cert. And with that, all of those have modules. And you'll notice there's only one at the end that doesn't have modules. And what we do with the first 4 units is with each of those modules, we have a short quiz. For example, the social brain, people can do that online free if they wish to do it as continuing professional development. It also makes up part of our orientation to educational neuroscience unit. And for example, with that, we have brain-friendly ways of doing it whereby you get to look at some material which takes about 20 hours to engage with and take your own notes from as you choose, and then do a quiz at the end. And we've got a bank of 80 to 100 items. And with that bank, you get presented with 20 of them. And we fetch them out of certain areas so they're all not in one particular space. And if you don't get 16 or more out of 20 first run through, you can have another run and so on through to you achieving 16. So it's if you like, a brain-friendly way to say, don't worry if you make some mistakes. I actually say to people, take screenshots, have your other stuff open. It's meant to be learning. Why would I encourage you to, inverted commas, cheat? Well, you're not cheating. It's part of your learning. So we see from you on that first module, for example, the completion of the quizzes of 16 or more out of 20. Most people only need to do it once, twice sometimes, and they get their 16 or more on each of those 4 quizzes. As you go through the material, each unit's 150 hours. So as you go through, we've got about 110 hours of content and about 40 hours for you to do your own reflection, produce a short video of 10 minutes and so on. So as you go through, we encourage you to write 2 or 3 pages of reflections on each module, the social brain, brain science, the future of education and so on, all the way through those, all the way through to the final one actually. And with that, we don't actually ever mark your reflections, your notes. I say try and write it for colleagues so you can give the good news on to others rather than just self-contained notes that are wonderful for Ken and pretty much nobody else. Some students prefer to do it for themselves only, and some students, of course, make it for their colleagues. So you're encouraged to do one or the other. We don't mark that, but we just want to see it. The reason we want to see it is, 1, to make sure that you've gone through the 4 modules, 3, whatever number it is. And 2, the second part of the assessment, so you've got 4 quizzes in the first one. The second part is a short video of approximately 10 minutes, between 8 and 12, in which you look at one little aspect, stress, growth mindset, neuroplasticity, whatever turned you on, and deal with that in a professional video for your colleagues. And we just say it's got to be of reasonable quality. And I've marked hundreds of these now, and nobody's ever been asked to resubmit. They've all been fine. So don't worry, quite easy to do. Most people use YouTube. Some use other platforms such as Loom. So you can see the names of them. The one that Penny's doing now is remote learning informed by educational neuroscience. Why is she doing that? You can see the date of next year being available. She's one of our 2 testers going through to make sure that it's of quality, that we've got any typos and other things there. And I've had feedback already on that, and so I'll be making those adjustments shortly. But to give you an idea of our assessment tasks, and I'll speed through the other slides, we had the original writer like myself, then somebody else check them. And then we had 10 experts who are world-renowned for their expertise with the Queensland Core Skills Test, as well as other significant tests. And so we have that quality assurance that the quizzes aren't just Ken's, they're actually world-class. So they refined the items we had, and they extended our bank for us, which was fantastic. So that work's all been finished now. It took approximately 2 years, so it wasn't done in haste. Okay, the grad cert, which will interest a lot of you, is a postgraduate.
Can I just ask you to speak to one point before you take people through that? I think one of the things that impressed me about your program is it doesn't just focus on people in the education sector, that it's very broad, and it might be useful just so people appreciate that whilst it's a master's or postgrad in neuroscience of education, that it has very broad application. I wonder if that's something you're going to speak to soon, or whether...
Let's do it now.
Okay.
We get psychologists, social workers, professors at other universities, professors of neuroscience from Germany and from America. Overall, with those first 4 units, we actually took around about 12 hours out of each and put on the FutureLearn platform. I've got over 51,000 students around the world who are studying that. And again, big numbers there. We've got that feedback where our average score is 4.8 out of 5 for the quality and so forth by that 51,000 odd students. So we had a lot of people go through. In the social brain, we try to encourage anybody to do it. A parent, somebody who works with kids, somebody who works with adults, because all of us, believe it or not, actually have a brain. Every brain is different, and every brain is highly, highly social. So you learn about that from some of the world-renowned experts like Professor Louis Cozolino, Matthew Lieberman, and others, and you go, wow, I didn't know that. I reckon I could use that on my dog, let alone my family. So the applicability is, of course, in the community generally. And I've got medical doctors, nurses, a criminologist with a PhD whose work I marked yesterday from UQ or someplace. So, just anybody. The bottom line is, I say this to people, that grad cert is good for parents, probably not younger people, but anybody who works with youth in any way, shape or form. So even if you have no formal qualification, but you've been working with your own kids for a while, that application will come to me and we let you in at the beginning, all right? You guys, of course, get advanced standing in that, but it's set up so that you only have to do those quizzes. How many modules are there? 13 quizzes. That's 4 units, 4 videos, and 4 journals, reflective journals. So that's the production of materials that you've got. And they come from all over the place. With the 51,000 odd, a lot come from the Indian subcontinent, the Philippines, South America, a few from North America, a lot out of Europe and England and so forth, and from all walks of life. The vast majority of those 51,000 are teachers, but you'll see if you go onto FutureLearn's platform, the backgrounds they come from are extraordinarily varied. So, thanks for that. But I just say, look, as a parent, you might be interested in doing the grad cert. It's going to teach you a lot about youth, the neuroplasticity issues with the brain and so forth as it develops and so on. So that's the grad cert. We've got some funny titles there. Inspirational leadership is a phenomenally important and useful one. You do a course along that line, but one of my PhD students, Judy Newman, recently finished her doctorate in inspirational leadership. And so we use her contemporary evidence, which builds upon the body of knowledge that we already had in the area. And she does it in a really sort of interesting way. She's a former principal of schools and led big schools around Queensland for a number of years. Neuroplasticians and neuromyths, you wouldn't believe it, but there's an awful lot of neuromyths out there. The variety of learning styles you've got, well, that's, pardon me, rubbish. It's basically simply the inputs you have, depending on the nature of the content, means that it might be better to hear it, to see it, to experience it, or whatever it is, not the way that information is processed in the brain. Left brain, light brain, you only use 10%, all these sorts of things. Professor Tracy Tokuhuma Espinosa out of Harvard has a book about yay thick on neuromyths that we draw upon, and we use Tracy and other people's work in that one, for example. So look out, there's a whole bunch of neuromyths out there that you need to be aware of and to be able to give an articulate response on why visual auditory learning styles is wrong. Learning and memory, this is an interesting one. Can I give you a quick aside? I wrote that originally back in about 2017. It was updated by Daniel Teague in about 2020. I thought, I know the content of this. I'll just go and do the 3 quizzes. I won't bother about looking at the materials again. That was a big mistake. Yeah, I got through a couple of attempts, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to go back and have a look at the material again because it had changed. So just be aware of that. It's not a walk in the park. It does demand things of you, and we really do help you change your own brain so that you're actually able to influence others. That's the grad cert. Once you've completed that, now some people go straight into the masters. I've got over 200 doing the masters and about 100 odd doing the grad cert currently. So a lot goes straight into the masters. A few don't have the relevant qualifications. Like I've got a colleague who has, he's got his high school diploma and that's it. But he has many years of working with clients in the health industry. And so I said, righto, you can come in. That one's going to come to me. I'll tick it off. Don't be concerned. And so we get them in there. So for some people, that's like a probationary holding course to just say, well, we'll let you into the masters once we see that you understand these things, and you good folks understand them rather well already. Okay, and to finish off 3 units, learning, remote learning, which Penny's doing now. Penny, do you want to make any quick comment on that? I think you're finding it fairly interesting. It's early days for you, but pretty good.
Are you kidding? I am so excited. Seriously, what I've learned in this last, and I've just started really with the first module. When we say educational neuroscience, we're all educators. It doesn't matter whether you're a teacher, if you're a leader, you're educating every single day. This is futuristic, in my opinion. It's the latest studies, and it really can provide a roadmap to how you are going to plan and forecast even the changing minds that we have coming into the workforce. So, and I've only just started with the first modules, and I think I've read about 10 of the papers, and I have notes everywhere. So I'm so excited by this.
Wonderful. Now, could I give you a hint on the notes? You heard how I say to Penny and others, how many modules in that one? 3. 2 or 3 pages each, sort of 10 pages. The longest I've ever got to date was 300 pages from somebody.
I can imagine that.
Just keep it that way. And one the other day, a senior deputy principal at a big school in Victoria said to me, Ken, mate, I've only got handwritten notes. I said, I'm sorry, I actually need to see them. I trust you, but I actually need to see them. So do you mind just scanning in? So you've probably got a secretary or somebody to scan it in. In it comes, stunningly good. And I think his was like 30 pages. Most students tend to write about 20 to give you an overall view. I say, look, if your mates are going to read this, colleagues and so on, they don't want 300 pages. 20 is probably pretty good. 10's even better. So I say, just be aware that you might have personal notes like Penny might have that you're creating that. And then what's the drop dead important big ticket items that you want to share with friends and colleagues? And so I say, maybe produce that. I had this criminologist the other day. I happened to mark it yesterday, whenever it was, and I went, she's created a blog that's absolutely first class. And I said, well, this is a wonderful resource because she's building it over time as she goes through the various units and so on. But I said, that's fine. Because usually what happens is Penny will write, call it 20 pages on this, and other people put together a blog or some other form that they want to communicate with the world. And you go, thanks for that. And they just give me the blog link, which is what that lady did. Applying educational neuroscience, that's your research one. Now, I'll just pause on these 2 for a moment. In a master's degree that has a significant research base, usually around about 30%, it means that you can go on and do a PhD. We do have another PhD called PhD Industry, which I'll mention later on at the very end, for those who don't have that solid research base. But the Master of Educational Neuroscience, Daniel Tegg wrote the remote learning stuff, Penny. Daniel Tegg wrote the Applying Educational Neuroscience, and he has taught research at the university for many years, but has a critical contemporary view that's wonderful. And you got some of that in the remote learning. And the last one's your masterpiece. You know how as an apprentice, you sort of go through and do stuff, and then you're a cabinet maker and you produce to say, I'm at the end of my apprenticeship, I'm now a master. I create a masterpiece which shows the world, especially the person I've been working with and others in that league or whatever, that I'm up there. And so this is your masterpiece, and it's usually around about 5,000-6,000 words. The longest I've seen so far is 12. The shortest is probably 5, but it's a more substantive work. And to date, I haven't had anyone that said, look, I want to do it in a slightly different way than a written thing. But most of them have sort of done something like this. They've banked their videos that they produced across the first 4 units. They've banked their reflections and they've gone, this little bit I'm just going to bring into my capstone project. And so it sort of becomes a cohesive whole rather than, well, I did that and I'm over that and I'll just go forward as though I never did anything. They tend to bring it together. You don't have to, but we do like you to plan a project. You don't have to execute it because then we need ethical clearance. So those last 3 units, 3 out of 8 equals a little bit over 30%, gets you across the line for those further studies should you want to go there. What's interesting about this, it's available all year round and 24/7, so you can do things in a self-paced way. You wouldn't believe it, even though we put that right up there to students from the very get-go. What often happens is, like the other day, somebody said, I've had very unfortunate circumstances. My mother's died and whatever. I don't think I'll be able to finish the unit before Christmas. And said, don't forget, it's self-paced. And all we do is take a note on your circumstances and we don't bother Jane again. We just know that something's occurred. And we get a few students because we follow up students, I think it's at 30, then 60 days, and then 120, whatever. If they haven't engaged, they haven't been in units doing stuff, we contact, we email, we phone and all that sort of stuff. And there's a lady that helps me to do all that sort of thing. So yeah, just be aware that we don't like people to take too long. So what, this grad cert, it's half a year full-time if you're doing it. And so most students tend to do it in about 18 months to 2 years, okay? They just spread it out. So 4 units and they sort of do a couple each year and the fall's over. With the Masters, similar. We do have some students, the record setter is 7 months for the whole Master's degree. That was one of those professors in Germany, and he did a great job, Heiner. And he was just on sabbatical for 7 months and said, I'm going to clear it. And he did a stunning job all the way through. So it's good to see. And I have a lady who is out there in the mines, and she's an instructor educator, I think, with trucks and so forth, west of Rockhampton. And she set the record, I think, for doing a unit. These units are 150 hours, right? So 40 hours a week, that's about 4 weeks if you were doing a pretty full-time thing. She did it in 10 days over Christmas, I think it was, and I politely said to her, narrator, she doesn't mind. You'll see a number of her examples of work through things. Said, didn't you have anything to do over Christmas? No, I actually was doing this. And she said, I didn't want to go to the beach. I didn't want to do other things. I was just so taken up with. And I read one of those again this morning from one of our lecturers at the university in the area of health sciences. Said, wow, I'm really finding this great. I just don't want to put it down. I just want to keep going. Love to hear that, but life interferes in various ways. We make sure it's contemporary is the next point there, of course. And what's the big focus? Our big focus, if you ask me, is to get better achievements for ourselves and the clients, students with whom we work, so they get better academic achievements, physical achievements, or whatever, and better wellness, better mental health. That's the big ticket items for the whole grad cert and the whole master's. Better achievements for yourself and others, and better wellness for yourself and others. The first 6 units are easy for me to grade. I have a look at the 10-minute video and say, that's fine, record back a couple of minutes about it and give written feedback associated with it. The only one that's graded, that is from pass through to high distinction, is the capstone project. We had a number of students complete that. Now, the lowest grade so far is distinction. So nearly everybody else is HD, so that's fantastic. I've already mentioned the items being 20, 80% or more correct, the 10-minute video, the reflective journal, and the last couple of ones you've got there, the remote learning and so forth, don't have quizzes at all. So it's only the first 4, a quiz on each module. 4 of them have 13 modules, 13 quizzes, then it's all over. Okay, just to finish off with, fees for this, you'd have to work out the per unit one, but it's somewhere around about the $1,500 mark. They've kept them the same for 23 as 22, which is great. So if you're paying all up, and of course, for you good folks, you're getting advanced standing of half the graduate certificate once you've got your diploma and so forth. And so you pay half of that figure there, so it's about $3,000. Some people have their employer fortunately pay for them and others not. The master's degree is, of course, double that. And that emphasis again on the brain-friendly teaching and learning. Many things that we do, for example, in schools are brain-unfriendly. They raise the stress levels of students, and we want the blood flow, the neural firing, the proteins and so forth active in the prefrontal cortex here. And if they have to shut down, it goes to lower parts of the brain and the blood flows back down near the stems, and all this sort of stuff. You're not going to learn much. You're not going to be able to. So we give people ideas on how to de-stress, how to manage the windows of stress of individuals with whom you're working, and so on. And just to finish off there, for those who wish to go further, we've got a couple so far that are doing that and get a doctorate and be called Dr. whoever, like Dr. Judy Newman. You can do CQU's PhD. With that, there are resource needs such as our supervisors available. We're trying to do that in a smart way now. And as I said, for the few people who come through without the necessary research, and MEd Neuroscience gives you that research anyway. They do the PhD industry. I've got one doing that now, my first one. It's taken a while to work out the rules and regulations around that one, but we got there. And overall, it's wonderful that once you get into the research degrees, the Australian government pays for the lot. So what happens is you don't, as an Australian citizen or New Zealand and whatever other criteria there are for it, the cost of a doctorate is nil. For international students, of whom we've got quite a number, or not in this area, but in other areas in the university, they pay about $15,000 a year part-time. So just to give you an idea, so if they were doing it full-time, it's around about $28,000 odd. So I think that was it, just to simply say, oh, I forgot about this. With NeuroCapability with Linda and team, we actually have your advanced diploma and staff who teach in it, where we've said that we want to create a precedent. Now, I don't have your particular precedent letter up because at the time I did these slides, I could only find the one with the QCAA, but yours is very similar. And instead of looking for the bits of paper that come from QCAA, they look for the relevant diploma certificate sort of thing, the testament that comes from NeuroCapability. You have to actually personally lodge that when you're applying. You can do it after you've applied to get into the course or whatever. But we don't know that you've done it if you don't tell us. I had a wonderful or unwonderful situation the other day, Penny and Linda, where somebody said, oh, I've completed the NeuroCapability Advanced Diploma. Will that help with the Masters? But they'd already done the grad cert. And I said, unfortunately, the last units you're going to do on remote learning, research and so on, don't equate. Bad luck. So even though it's been advertised heavily and you've advertised it online, some will make mistakes, and just got to say, like I did to this gentleman, bad luck. We can't help you with that one. So just keep that in mind. If you don't tell us, we don't know. So what happens behind the scenes is you use the credit calculator, and you got these slides and information from NeuroCapability there on how to do this, is that once you apply and you put in your diploma, a copy of it, that automatically triggers the advanced standing. So very simple. And we actually have Penny's and some other students bits of paper so that our credit people at the university look at it and go, yep, straight into unit 3. You don't have to worry about the first 2 units. And I think, the credit calculator, this is where you actually do it when you're applying. Very simple, my credit at CQU or whatever, and off you go. It does actually bring up NeuroCapability when you look, and Penny and Linda, I looked at one stage when we were doing this work 6 or more months ago and saw it. And then I looked for it again and couldn't find it, but no doubt you or Penny's probably found it again and can alert you. So to finish off with, if you want to contact us, probably the easiest one is our general neuroscience one, because what happens is Marilyn, who looks after that, flicks on the occasional one to me that sort of need more thought or attention. But most of the mechanical things you're going to ask about, admissions and other things, Marilyn takes care of, because you heard the number of students I work with. I have Marilyn. So Linda, that was it from me. So I'll stop sharing the screen and
thank you so much.
Away.
It was a great overview of the program. Penny, is there anything you'd like to add at this point? Because I know you've worked most specifically with Ken, and you're experiencing it firsthand right now. You're on mute, Penny. You're on mute, Penny.
I'm on mute. Go figure. Thanks, Linda. Ken, yes, I would. And I'm going to talk about you, Ken, so I hope you don't mind. But he's not the normal, right? He is really great to deal with. He's friendly. I have had no issue. It has been an absolute pleasure. And one of the things that I think from that perspective that I've loved is that it really is brain friendly. And following on from the advanced diploma, I think gives such a great opportunity to actually go deeper into the well, that's what I'm finding anyway. I think if I hadn't have done the advanced diploma, I possibly wouldn't have been able to have as deeper understanding with what I'm studying now. And then the excitement on how we can apply, not just in education, but in the workplace. And Marilyn is amazing. She is just your go-to. She just, because I've done some goofy things while I signed up and frustrated everyone, I'm sure, because it was goofy, and I realised. But anyway, Marilyn was there and so was Ken. So look, don't even think about it. Go sign up. You can also get the HEX, or I think it's called something else, but you can get HEX for this. So it will sit there and accrue. So you don't have to pay that up front either. But I believe they work it out in your taxation once you're earning over a certain level. But I heard actually that we are now learning scientists. So you've gone from being a scientist of your own experience, and we're now learning scientists, and you can continue that journey with the masters.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Penny. I think the other point that I hope people appreciate is that you can enroll at any time. That's correct, isn't it, Ken? It's not like we have an intake in October and an intake in February. Because it is self-paced, you can enroll.
Start today, start next year, whenever.
Thank you.
Can I just add, we're going to be holding a bit of a, and I know it's self-paced, Ken, but because of the way that we have our wonderful community and alumni, we are going to be holding study buddy groups, probably once a month, but we'll be sending out a survey to say, hey, when would you like it? How long would you like it? And in what format? Because I think it would be lovely to be on this journey with everyone, really, going down this pathway of discovery.
I'll be able to join those occasionally if you want my presence, just to listen. And that'd be great. I had a group of 10 go through, the 10 assessors. They did particular jobs. Just a couple of things that, one that Penny mentioned then, we like you to apply immediately the stuff. So don't sort of think, oh, I'll wait till I'm doing X or Y or whatever, 5 years away, a year away, 2 months away, today. Yeah. So we want the practical application immediately. And we often get reflections on that. I've tried this in a class and it's worked stunningly well. I tried that, then it was useless. So I sort of know which way I'm going to go. The other thing is I've been at the university for 32 years now and held various schools like positions like head of education and associate dean, looking after a third of the uni. So I've got that background where I'm quite familiar with things and help write a lot of the assessment policy and other things. That doesn't mean it's perfect there, but it does mean you've got somebody who knows which way up is up and can usually get jobs done. And I think it's called fee help if you don't want to pay up front. And it's quite a decent rate. And of course, people like me, I do other things that I say. So Marilyn, you email neuroscience and Marilyn gives you this nice little letter back and you say, oh, I still couldn't do it. She gets back and talks to you on the phone, whatever's needed, holds your hand. And I love the idea of bringing together small groups of people. We encourage that our folks who are studying 300 odd right now to work with at least one buddy, preferably more, but leave it to them. And it'd be wonderful if you can at least start that way. And then some might sprint ahead, some might, for various reasons, lag behind, whatever you want to call it. But just that notion that to socially support one another is phenomenally useful. And yeah, just love to be part of at least the early ones to say, well, I'll answer that question for you. And every once in a while, you'll see me scurrying for Dr. Google because I get some extraordinary complex technical questions occasionally. I had one the other day from a medical doctor and I went, And fortunately, I was able to, it wasn't live, I was able to think about it for a bit and got back to them saying, oh, here's the authoritative answer, politely, and so on. But it was kind of fun. I never get those, but I've probably handled half a dozen in the last, 4 years around this thing. So yeah, that's probably enough for me to say, welcome on board. Love to have you study with us, but make it apply to you so that you benefit with your mental health and your achievements and those near you. And it's your family, it's the folks with whom you work. They're the big ones in your community where you're able to have an impression, and that's kind of great.
Thank you so much, Ken. It looks like you've already got Helen Hart looking at joining the program. She sends her apologies. She's got to take her daughter to the doctor. So I guess at this point it would be good to open it up to any questions, anything that people would like to pose to Ken regarding the program would be great. Do we have any questions? You can either...
I noticed one there just very quickly, which was on the overseas students. I've got quite a few overseas students. They pay the same price, if I remember, international as the other, and there's no Australian government assistance.
Yeah, great. Yeah, they'll be a bit sad about that, but I think it's fairly comparable to some of the costs that they would pay over there.
Yeah. I've got a question, Ken, being a student now, but I'm just curious to find out what your thinking was in making it self-paced, because it's very unusual.
Yeah, one of the things there is that, lecturers tend to pull their hair out when all the assessments are due at once. It's kind of nice that they're spread, but it wasn't about me. They've decided I've lost enough hair already and a few more hairs won't matter. It wasn't about me, it was about the students, because with their lifestyles and so forth, a lot of them find it very useful and helpful, and most of them do the job properly. But every once in a while, you get somebody who falls off the wagon and forgets to engage for quite a while. That's the one that we kind of put the life ring out to, and we've had nobody quit, full stop.
That's nice.
So,
Thank you.
I think that's what I loved about when Ken was describing the program to us, is the nurturing, that they won't let you just go off and never hear from you again. Yeah, we've got your money, see you later. It really is about supporting you, and so we really loved that, and thought that was really
not heavy-handed interaction. But we sort of say, "Is life okay for you?" As the first email said, much more eloquently, of course, by Marilyn, as you know, Penny. And with that, we encourage them to come back in. Now, look, you got 3 years to do the grad cert once you enrol, and so even though you got two advanced standing units, life goes a bit wrong. You want to do it slower. You've still got 3 years to do those 2 units. What's the fastest? About 10 days somebody did one in, right? So to give you an idea. The other thing is, for the masters, we give you 4 years, but if something goes wrong, like this lady who's got going to have a fair bit of stress in life and interacting with last week, immediately told her, by the way, as head of course, I can have in your notes there that you can take up to 10 years. Now, I don't like shouting that from the treetop, but life happens. People have babies, people have loss of loved ones, and other things happen, change of jobs. They thought they were going to be doing this, and now I'm doing that. And it's funny, a couple who changed jobs and said, I'm not sure of the relevance, and they've been part of the way through it. I just said, you sure you're not sure? And they kept on going. So I have a vested interest in seeing people, if you like, at the end of the day, do better. I've been asked internationally at conferences when I've been on webinars or whatever, why do you do this? And I say it's for altruistic reasons. It's not financial, because with university, if you look at what a normal master's costs, that's a number of universities, you're looking at $30,000, $40,000, and ours is coming in at around about the 16 mark. I would have liked it a lot lower, but that's another story. I better not say it on camera.
Terrific. So we've got Huzi saying she is looking forward to doing it once she's finished her advanced diploma. Are there any other questions while we've got Ken live with us right now?
I was just going to ask a question for Dave. Do you want to be a study buddy, Dave?
That'd be a real honour, Jeff, for sure.
Excellent. Righto, we'll do diaries for next year, mate. I'm in.
I'm in too.
Yeah.
We had a couple of study buddies in the MBA leadership, which has 1,100. There'd be different platforms, self-paced stuff. And we have the MBA leadership. We're trying to progress all of our master's coursework over to that platform. So it's self-paced. Some of them don't lend themselves. We've got health, nursing, mental health stuff on it, and a few others. But journalism and so on haven't made it. But I just wanted to cite to you, Jeff and Dave, one of the couples. One was in Sydney and her buddy was over in Perth. When they eventually finished the MBA leadership, they've been holding hands all the way through and celebrating, having their glass of wine or going out for dinner or whatever it is when they completed a unit. And they have about 16 units or whatever it is to complete, as opposed to our 7. And it was so great that the lady from Perth came over to be with her friend as they walked across the stage. So they did everything together, including graduate. And I thought, Perth to Sydney, that was a long way to come just for a study buddy, but that's how much it meant.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question, Ken. So in terms of research, I might have missed this, but is there a particular research in any of the units?
Yes, most certainly there is. We at the university have about 32 subjects units called research something or other, and the university looks at that with a very dim view. So we disguised, this has been recorded, isn't it? That's okay. We disguised our research unit with applied educational neuroscience. It's pure research. It's done by somebody who's brilliant in the field, Daniel Tegg, and has taught it for many years. And you'll find that I found it absolutely enlightening. I've done, I've done a bit of research, let's say. And with it, that was phenomenal. But your capstone project, even though you only planned something, some people enact it. For example, Heiner over in Germany enacted his and whatever he did. A lot of students tend to do desktop studies or some form of case study. With my German friend, he did some advanced statistical things because he's used to that. And you see, some of the folks who are listening now may well have a background in, say, psychology or biology or whatever, where they've used stats and they want to go and do some testing and so forth that way. And so using that positive approach, but nearly everyone that I've got tends to use approaches that are sort of, if you don't mind me saying it, more suitable to the messy world in which humans work and live, rather than, in biology, sorry to put down the biology, but the notion that if we have a crop and we don't apply water and we have a crop next to it and we do apply water and the soils are the same, guess what? The one with water. And that, by the way, is the biggest finding of our research group in the science area on crop agriculture stuff, that if you add water, it works. There are many other findings, but that's a big ticket one. So a lack of water is a significant issue. So the original stats sort of idea came from that. And then you have some areas of humanities like psychology and that have tried to apply it and done a very good job. But when you read Daniel Tegg's unit, you go, all research is flawed. How can I have something that's meaningful to my context and of value to the people with whom I work and of value to people in this area? And we're finding that the last few students that I've had do their doctorate with me, one of them used phenomenology, which is the lived experience of the person, how that shaped up for them. And the two most recent ones have been some form of, well, one's a straight out case study using Merriam's stuff, and another one was participant action research, which was not too dissimilar to case study, but a little bit different. So in other words, we've got all sorts of methodologies that people have. And how do they choose it? They say, well, here's where I've identified a little gap in the literature. I'm talking about doctoral people now, but even at the master's project then, here's something I want to look at because I'm working with these people. Here's my sort of research question. How do I think I can answer that? Oh, I reckon if I conducted some interviews and maybe a couple of surveys, you don't have to do them. You don't do them. But you tell us what you're going to do, why, and we can see the rigor associated with your intended research. And being used to doctoral stuff, I'll soon let you know, because I'm the only one that marks. Actually, I mark everything right now. We have a marker in occasionally for the videos if I'm away, like I was last week. But I'll soon let you know if there's something untoward, and I have had none that are untoward because they've been well trained through Daniel's unit on the applied stuff. And they've come through, they've got the content knowledge, they've got the research skills, and they say, I want to narrow in on that thing in my classroom or at my business organization. One of the best students I've had go through is a high-up business educator based in Melbourne, and his was all about business. From the first word to the last word in his master's, it was business, business, business. And you'll see he set the record of exemplars. You will see one of his videos and usually one of his journals as the exemplar in every unit.
Right, yeah.
Just to give you an idea.
Yeah, so because, for example, if I enrolled, I'd be interested to see if some of my current work, if there's a way I could structure some of this current work so that that could count as part of it. So, for example, I've just finished an Appreciative Inquiry Summit with the Neuroscience Institute and doing the follow-on consulting, and then with another university about to work with their science faculty around culture change. So is there a way, for example, that I could consult with you, find out what I might be able to do so that even though some of it's retrospective, it fits into a research project?
Very easy, and love that sort of stuff because it's real world for you, something you have a passion about. Now, I'll tell you about one that I had, Dr. Ragnar Purche, he was the phenomenology one. And his subject was Johnny Famechon, the world champion boxer who had things go wrong being hit by a car in Bankstown. And he treated him back in the early 90s, and he's writing this up in 2011 through 15. And so that was retrospective, a subjective one. We worked out how to do it.
Okay, great.
And he got his PhD from it, and very convincingly saying this is fabulous. If you don't want to split for a second, I've got a tradesperson here that's been doing some stuff on the roof. So if you want to talk or whatever for a moment, I'll be about 1 minute.
Nick, I want to come to your question while, and hello, by the way, you look very well. It's lovely to see you.
Hello. Thank you. You too.
Thank you. The question was answered a little bit earlier in relation to the backgrounds, but doctors, psychologists, other professors from other universities, it's a really broad range because you came in a little bit later. And one of the things that Ken was saying is that, and I would love to say, is that it actually fits because we're all educators. So it doesn't matter what workforce you're in or where you're going. I think the name educational neuroscience probably misleads a little bit. And I was asked that question. It's a wonderful, just the short stuff I've been doing, it's wonderful. So yeah, a really broad range of people.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
And I think, Nick, in your context of where you work, so Nick works in the correctional services area as an educator, it would be perfect.
Yeah, there's so much that I've wanted to think that I could apply from the advanced diploma, and to be able to do some actual proper research in this space, I think would be quite exciting. So yeah.
And it sounds really exciting what you're planning to do. One of the things I get excited about is that if people are interested in the study buddy idea, is that we then get to hear about the research that you're doing. Yes. And there's opportunities then to say, hey, do you want to come and do a webinar to our community around that? Because that way we can continue to educate people around the things that, that you're exploring and that you're doing.
And if I can add to that, Linda, I think one of the things that Ken said is he would be really happy to extend this out to his current students and alumni as well. So I think that gives us a really lovely broad sense in that study buddy group that will actually be run by all of you, really. So yeah, really exciting.
I have a question for Penny, if that's okay. I'm interested to know, Penny, based on what we've done in the advanced diploma, what are you most enjoying? What are you learning that's brand new for you, and what are you enjoying the most?
Do you know, I can only speak, I'm only halfway through module 1. I'm enjoying the papers, the most up-to-date research that is there. Just the thought of the difference, and you might have heard this, but the difference between digital natives and digital immigrants, and how the new science is telling us that the brains of digital natives, so people that have been brought up with this in their hand and post 1980 to give a point and before, and how their brains are actually so different to us, and how when they're learning compared to what we're learning, it's even in different areas of the brain. And so how do we then take that and apply that to these people that are coming into our workforce? So it really builds on everything that we have laid down as the advanced diploma. And I'm just appreciating the advanced diploma even more so than I ever have, because that deeper understanding, the papers that we're reading, especially around COVID, but also there's a whole range of other elements that I'm learning about in terms of even how looking at how we engage and what are the different things we can do, and look at that micro learning and how do we do that remotely. Right now I have more questions than answers, but that's the beauty of being excited. And truly, if I could just spend every day doing this, I'd be really happy. Sorry, Linda. But it's fascinating.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really lovely about their offering is that you can do that module on the social brain for free. So if you want to get a bit of a taster, then do the quiz first, see how much you know. But that can be useful for you. And they have linked with really eminent neuroscientists from around the world, and it exposed us to different people that we weren't necessarily aware of. So there's definitely, and I think when you hear things shared in a different way, you always take something away from that. So, you would have, obviously they're giving you an advanced standing because you have got a depth of knowledge in this area, but I would encourage you to have a look at that social brain one. And
There's a lot.
And the other, there are pathways. We've got the relationship with Middlesex University that people can go on to do a professional doctorate if you're not really interested in doing a research based PhD, which is, quite intense. But again, you pay for that, as opposed to it's free for Australian and New Zealand in Australia. Okay. We still don't have Ken with us. Are there any other questions that people want to pose that we can perhaps try and answer, or make sure that we get him to answer for us? No other questions? Okay. And have we got, what do you think so far? Like, are there any, how does it sound?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Just jump in and have a go.
That would be great, Dave. And it'd be great to take, some of that learning back into the work that you do as well. Because I think, as Penny said, and I think that's the important part, is you don't have to be a teacher to do the program. You can, really, as we all are educators, and that's really critical. All right. So if there are no other questions,
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is Hazel. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Hazel.
Hi. I wanted to just pause and acknowledge you, Linda, and all the crew at NeuroCapability for setting this pathway and allowing the likes of myself and other students to see the world in a different light. And it really does resonate with my soul, my heart, my spirit, what we are learning. And I'm ever so grateful for this line of study and for the insights, and for to be able to have the opportunity to meet like-minded people and to come together on a platform. And I really want to acknowledge you and the team during this time, and the work that you have, set forth, so that we have another stepping stone, and it will continue to, forge a path for amazing leaders across the world. And so before I went or leave today, I wanted to let you know that it is much appreciated, and your hard work and your efforts don't go unrecognized. And thank you all so much.
Oh, thank you so much, Huzi. Yeah, that's lovely. It really touches my heart. And so thank you so much. And we don't get any financial benefit out of this relationship. This is really just us trying to provide that pathway, because we know as people go deeper into this area, you know, you're on that journey of changing the world one brain at a time with us, and you will learn new things and think about new things and do come up with new ideas, new translation of the material. And I think that's what's really exciting for us is, yeah, we really, and it's been so hard to find somewhere that we thought was a good pathway, to be honest. We've looked around the world and there it was in Australia. So that was absolutely lovely. And he is such a personable, lovely fellow, very easy to deal with. Yeah, and in fact, some universities we just didn't want to work with because they weren't like that. And we knew that they weren't going to operate in a brain-friendly way and give our students the nurturing, you know, our alumni the nurturing that they deserve. So I'm wondering...
Sorry, I was just going to say, if you want some more information, Ken has done a recorded video for you that takes you through the steps again, so we can actually send that. So he's done that purely for our advanced diploma alumni and students. So email Amber and she'll send it through.
And we might send it with this recording as well. Yeah, okay. I'm thinking that Ken might have got a little bit waylaid, and it is, I'm aware it's 12:59 and people have probably got other meetings that you need to go to. So I'm wondering whether we say farewell at this point, and I hope that you've had all your questions answered. Reach out, as Ken said, to the email that he provided earlier if you've got anything that you kind of go, oh, I wish I'd asked that, or it's something, you know, particular to your circumstance. I'm sure that they will respond pretty quickly, and we'd love to see some of you joining the program, and let us know if you're joining. Let us know, because we would like to look at that study buddy option as well. Lovely to see all your faces, and enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.